in this video, I'm going to explain why James Lindsay doesn't understand what woke means. I want to break this down into terms that everybody can understand. So this is his tweet here where he says it. This is the most simply he said it here, right? He said this on an interview I saw once, but also he said it on this tweet. He says, woke means having a critical consciousness. That's the only thing it means. Nothing more, nothing less. Well, pretty concise, right? Well, the problem is nobody knows what critical consciousness means. So you thought this was a simple definition, but he uses another term nobody knows what it means in critical consciousness. He says the same thing here. Woke right means having critical consciousness. It does not mean more than this or less than this. Okay, by his own words, that's all it means. Okay, cool. That's his definition of what it means, by the way. That's not what it really means. I'm going to show why this is false. But anyway, that's his definition. At least he can say it simply. Or concisely, not simply, but concisely. That's what Grok says. Critical consciousness is basically the ability to see and understand the hidden unfairness or inequalities in society, like power imbalances, biases, or systems that hold people back, and then feel motivated to challenge or change them for the better. This is the definition. My first question after hearing this is, what is wrong with doing this? The ability to see and understand hidden unfairness or inequalities in society. So is there anything wrong with seeing and understanding a hidden unfairness or inequality in society? No, that would be good if you saw that. Are there any hidden unfairnesses or inequalities in society? Of course. Like power imbalances, biases, or systems that hold people back. So what would be so bad about that? So first I want to establish that James is doing this. So and by the way, there's nothing wrong with him doing that. I'm fine with him supporting Israel. Everybody does this that talks about politics. Like, does not every Republican Party or Democrat Party talk about unfairness or inequality in some way? Doesn't every candidate do that? Power imbalances, biases, systems that are harming people, and then trying to work to change it, to make it better? Isn't every candidate doing that? Isn't everybody on Twitter who is talking about politics doing that? Everybody does that. This faulty definition. I'll show you my definition in a minute. I just want to say that this is something I thought about when the term woke was in the public consciousness about 5 years ago. A lot of people started to use the term, and even leftists would call themselves woke. They thought it was good, and people on the right would say, no, that's bad, you're woke, and so it was being used a lot, and I used it too. And I started to think, what does that actually even mean? What does it even mean? What does the term mean? Because nobody is saying what it means. And it kind of troubled me because I thought if somebody challenges me on this, I won't know what it means. I know what woke means when I see it. I have a general idea of what it is when I see it, but I can't really define it in concrete terms. So I was wanting to figure it out. What does it mean? It did trouble me because that creates a little bit of a vacuum when people are that ignorant about a term, and then somebody can come in and just tell you what it means through a bunch of terms and claim authority, and then you're like, well, okay, I guess they're saying it's critical consciousness, or they're saying it's all these things, and then you're like, I guess so, but is it really? He often is talking about woke right in a big word salad, and people come away with it thinking, I don't know what he just said. And it creates an emperor has no clothes dynamic. But I want to show you the real definition here. So this is what I wrote in response to somebody. Somebody asked me something, and I just want to read you my concise definition. See, this only took me, well, it was an extended tweet, not just a small tweet. It's not that long. I'll just show you here. Let me highlight it. Woke means moral relativism. And moral relativism is believing there is no difference between people groups or behaviors. That's it. That's all that woke is. In practice, how this looks in practice in the world, how people react in practice, it would look like this. As for an example, black people make less money than white people on average. Since no people groups are better or worse, and no behaviors are better or worse, moral relativism, black people making less money must mean that there was some oppression that took place. That is the assumption of oppression based on disparate outcomes. It is the assumption of victimhood based on disparate outcomes that makes something woke. It's the assumption. There's no evidence except disparate outcomes. That's what they're basing everything on. The left clearly does this. As for the example here, as per the George Floyd protests, when they said, black people are shot or killed by police more often, and black people are killed by police more often, 2.4. And by the way, I did a video breaking this down at the time. Black people are killed 2.4 times more often than white people. That is true, but you take that factoid and then you assume that must mean there's systematic racism against black people. But what about the behavior? Maybe the behavior of black people led into that. And you look into the facts, black people resist arrest 10 times more often than white people. And resisting arrest is a stepping stone to getting in an altercation with the police, to getting killed by police. Black people also have deadly force against cops 3.5 times more often than white people. If you're trying to kill a cop, you are more likely to get killed. So I'm surprised that black people only get killed 2.4 times more often. I would think based on 10 times more resisting arrest and 3.5 times more deadly force against cops, they would be killed more than 2.4 times. It's surprising to me. But woke people just say, oh, they're killed 2.4 times more often. That must mean racism. Or black people make less money. That must mean racism. Or black people or women are in this particular field less than men. That must mean sexism. Or anything. That's what, or even with the Sydney Sweeney stuff that's been happening lately. They're upset because the ad is presenting Sydney Sweeney as kind of a beauty standard, as kind of a symbol of beauty, right? And then people are like, no, we don't like that, because that goes against their moral relativist worldview. That's what the fat acceptance thing is about. Everybody is beautiful. Everybody is equally good. It's all keeping it all relative. Step back just for a second. I mean, the same concept is, if you have critical consciousness, you are woke. All you have to do is find one example of somebody who has critical consciousness who isn't woke. Well, James himself displays critical consciousness in some of his tweets. Everybody does, and not everybody is woke. But I'll give another analogy. If somebody said, well, I know 2 black people that are criminals, so if you are black, you are a criminal. If they make a statement such as that, if you are black, you are a criminal, what do you have to do to disprove that statement? All you need to do is find one person who is black who isn't a criminal, and you can do that very easily, right? Just one. That's all you have to do. For any of these defining statements, now, don't get me wrong, woke people can have critical consciousness, but critical consciousness doesn't make you woke. Do you see the difference? This is a superficial factor. Critical consciousness is superficial. Woke people can have critical consciousness, but it doesn't define them. It's not a defining factor. If it was a defining factor, then everybody who had critical consciousness would be woke. Moral relativism is a defining factor, because everybody who has moral relativism is woke. Just like the example of the 2 black criminals. A black person can be a criminal, but that doesn't mean all black people are criminals. It's a superficial factor. It's not a defining factor. What is a defining factor of being a criminal? Breaking the law is a defining factor of being a criminal. Can you find an exception to that rule to disprove it? Somebody who broke the law who is not a criminal. No, you can't. That's how you define a criminal, somebody who broke the law. Can you find somebody who's a moral relativist who is not woke? No, because it is a defining factor. Can you find somebody who has critical consciousness who is not woke? Yes. Therefore, it's not a defining factor. It's a false definition. This is a superficial factor. It can be true of somebody who is woke, but if you use it, as everybody does, it doesn't necessarily mean you are woke. If you are black, it doesn't necessarily mean you are a criminal. You could be. It's a superficial factor, right? So this is the proper definition. I'll just go on to a few more examples because I know James has said a lot of other gobbledygook about woke right, and he did a longer explanation on Stossel, and he clipped it here, and he's saying it's so easy to understand. Stop pretending you don't. Well, you're talking gobbledygook all the time, and then when you say it succinctly, you say it's critical consciousness, which also nobody knows what that means. So anyway, I'm not going to play this video. I'm just going to, I transcribed it though. I debunked it and I explained why all the things he said are not proofs. All of them are the same thing. They're all superficial factors. Every single one of them. I'll go down you can read this tweet. I'll link it in the description. But he says they act. Why is the woke left like these people on the right that I'm calling woke? He says they act the same way. They use the same tactics. Okay, that's not specific, so not really something substantive. Has the same mentality of oppressor oppressed. That's the same as critical consciousness. Already explained. Everybody does that. Wants family-friendly socialism to replace capitalism. Okay. And as I explain here, just because you want more towards socialism, that doesn't make you woke. Like most Republicans think we should have Medicare or Social Security. That doesn't mean you're a woke person, right? That's a superficial factor. Some woke people want more socialism or more social programs, but just because you want more social programs, that doesn't necessarily mean you are woke. Right? Act like the woke left, think like the woke. See, more platitudes, unspecific, non-substantive. Adopt a critical theory. That's the same as critical consciousness. We already went over that. Marxist analysis. That's just the same as critical consciousness. Engage in the same behaviors. Victimhood mentality. Same thing as critical consciousness. Cancel culture. Now he's complaining that some conservatives wanted to block the Babylon Bee or Candace B wanted to block the Babylon Bee for something. I can't remember what it was, but that if that was woke, then all conservatives would be woke, because we all, probably almost all of us, had participated in a boycott. I boycotted Starbucks. By the way, there was this one lady, I don't want to say her name, but this influencer that I actually like her content. I've seen her videos on YouTube, and she was posting in response to this, yeah, these woke right people are canceling people, and I just did a search did a search for her user ID and cancel and boycott, and she was boycotting Starbucks. She had like 7 tweets where she was saying to boycott somebody. I'm like, look, how can you say that when you're boycotting all these places? And she didn't really have a good response, but I'm like, do you guys like pressure test, or just like, also not just pressure test, but hypocrisy test? Test yourself. Am I doing what I'm saying? By the way, there's nothing wrong. Like everything she said in her tweets, I was like, I agree. Good job boycotting. Did she boycott a Starbucks too? And I was like, that's the only real boycott that I've done for a long time. I haven't had Starbucks in like 8 years because they just donate to like all the worst places. But there's nothing wrong with boycotting. We boycotted Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. That's how we got them out of office, because we boycotted them. We said no more of them. Why is it wrong to boycott somebody? I mean, if there's some influencer that suddenly starts saying a bunch of liberal stuff, like, you're gonna say like, don't listen to this person anymore because they're saying all this garbage. Is that not what James Lindsay's doing to Tucker and Candace? He's saying, look at all this stuff they're saying. You should, like, I don't know if he's explicitly saying it, but he's basically saying, like, don't, like, take them seriously. They're woke, right? That's what he's saying. So don't take them seriously. Just put them in a category of heretic, and that's it. And how is that not cancel culture? According to his definition of cancel culture, right? I don't mind him doing that, by the way. I don't care. Like, if you don't think people should listen to somebody, go ahead and say, don't listen to that person. That's fine. But the hypocrisy is what I'm talking about like here. So anyway, struggle sessions, all that means is you're challenging people on their position. He's constantly challenging people every day on Twitter. That's fine. There's nothing wrong. Bully people online. Bully, I mean, that's very subjective. Elizabeth Warren, you look at her comment section, it's like almost all conservative. Nothing wrong. What's wrong with that? They're expressing their opinion. That's not bullying. It's an open platform. They're expressing their opinion. Anyway, so by the way, this is even if you found a conservative who was a bully, and you probably could, and I could probably think of some where I think he's being very rough right now. This one particular person I'm thinking of, I'm like, he is very rough, or this one woman that I think is rough, and they go too far sometimes. Both these people I really like, but just because you're a bully, that means you're woke? Like, that's another superficial factor. That is not a determining factor. Woke, and it's not even a determining factor for people on the left. They're not all bullies. All woke left people, they're not all bullies. Some of them are. But it's a superficial factor for both. Rewrite history. Well, this is really circular reasoning. It's your version of history. Like Candace Owens does a report about the USS Liberty attack, and she says it's a false flag, and the history says it's not. It was just a miscommunication, but she does this report on it. I watched it, and I was like, it's very convincing. She had somebody who was on the USS Liberty saying, don't believe the story they're telling you. It's not true. I was there. I was an eyewitness. This is what happened. Israel did this. They attacked us. We were left stranded there for a long time. We shouldn't have been left stranded there if it was just a miscommunication. They should have picked us up in like an hour. Like, they're presenting a solid case how this was a false flag, and all the things that happened to this man after, like everybody telling him to keep quiet about it. It's like, okay, like, you're presenting a solid case. Like, I'm not going to tell you like 100% I know for sure this was a false flag, but I would say I think it's like 90% chance this was a false flag based on the evidence that I've seen. So if I'm right, let's just say I'm right, and somebody who thinks the USS Liberty was not a false flag, it was just a miscommunication. What if they're wrong and it turns out we have proof in the future, it comes out actually it was a false flag? Are they woke for believing a false version of history and writing history in a false way? No, they were just wrong about something, and I could be wrong too. I could be wrong. It might have just been a miscommunication. Does that mean I'm woke? No, I was just wrong about something. That's okay. Have we all not been wrong about something? That means we're woke? That would mean everybody is woke. It's ridiculous. It's not a defining factor. It's a superficial factor. This last one, the switched Communist Manifesto. This one is pretty silly. If you look it up, you can find it online. Or ask Rock. Say, show me the passages of the Communist Manifesto and show me the switches that James did. If you see it, it's almost all sentence structure. Use the same sentence structure. There's nothing wrong with sentence structure. Sentence structure doesn't make you woke. It's just style. There's nothing wrong with that. He'll change the key word in it. Instead of like bourgeoisie, he'll put like liberal establishment or something. When you do that, it changes the entire meaning of the paragraph. And then he says, oh, you're woke because you used something from the Communist Manifesto. There's only changed like 10%. It's like, that's such a, I don't want to say disingenuous because I don't know his intent. I'll just stick to the facts and just say it's false. Go look at that yourself. That's fine. But anyway, I think I thoroughly disproved his woke right definition and shown, I don't know of anybody on the right that is moral relativist. I guess out of 160 million people, you could find somebody on the right who is a moral relativist. Maybe. If you can, show me. But I've not seen anybody. Certainly Tucker isn't. Certainly Candace isn't. Dave Smith isn't. Nick Fuentes isn't. None of these people that are being accused of being woke are moral relativists. This is a false charge. By the way, if you dispute anything in this video, you dispute it. Go ahead. And I've been debating. I've been debating people just for fun. I just like to see how people think. So I've been debating a lot of these, the people that have been commenting in James' comment section or other people's, prominent people's comment section. I've been debating them. Nobody can lay a glove on me. I'm not bragging. I just want people to believe the truth. Like, I've challenged them. Nobody can say why all these objections to James's definition are wrong. Nobody can say. Probably like 500 people, because anyway, nobody can say. It's been hundreds of people. Some of them have responded. I'm like, this person appears to be a smart person. They can't say. Nobody can say. And it's because I'm right. I'm sorry. I'm not, it sounds arrogant, but I am right. Like, I looked at this, I figured it out. And that's why I knew immediately when James started saying this, I was like, whoa, right, what are you talking about? I remembered nobody on the right, like, I knew that was false. I didn't even know what he meant, but then I researched and finally figured it out because he speaks in such a garbled way. But anyway, if you have any problems with it in the comments, please respond. I will respond back, or my Twitter. You can respond to me on Twitter at dttpeople.com. At dttpeople.com. Go ahead. Find this post if you want. I'll link this post in the description. And I will respond to you. Unless you're a jerk, then I'll probably, because I'm getting kind of, I want to say I've responded to hundreds of people. Well, maybe I've not responded, but I responded to, tagged hundreds of people. I've responded to probably over 100 people at this point. But if you're nice and respectful, I will carry on a conversation with you. But it gets tedious because I'm saying the same thing over and over and over. And I just wanted to put it down in the video so I can just give people the video and not have to explain the same thing over and over and over. So I'll just, from now on, I'm probably just going to link people to this video and say, hey, this is it. This is airtight. It's wrong. Stop believing it. This is, but I have to just stop myself because I want to say snake oil salesman when I refer to James Lindsay, but I'm not going to say that. I don't know his motives. Don't know his motives. But this is if he's not a snake oil salesman, if this is just he honestly believes this is a pretty remedial error, guys. I debunked this so quickly. You saw how I debunked this. All I had to do was show somebody who used critical consciousness that wasn't woke, and that was everybody uses critical consciousness and not everybody is woke. It's so easy. Anyway, that's enough. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the next video.